A standing ovation in the Indian parliament says more than any statement by the government in Delhi. The US-India agreement is not only a trade deal, but part of a broader geopolitical restructuring of the energy and raw materials market. Washington wants to increase its presence in one of the world's largest markets, while limiting the space for Russian suppliers. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, India has become one of the main recipients of Russian oil, which provides the Kremlin with stable financial inflows. At the same time, the energy market in the region also includes raw materials from Iran, which is subject to US sanctions.
India is coming in and they're going to be buying Venezuelan oil as opposed to buying it from Iran. So we've already made that deal, the concept of the deal.
This concept has now been followed by specific arrangements. These indicate that Delhi will significantly reduce supplies from Russia in exchange for oil from the Western Hemisphere. Indian Prime Minister Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil and buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. This will help end the war in Ukraine. At the same time, Washington is building a global network of cooperation on strategic minerals, raw materials essential to the technology, energy, and defense industries. This is a response to the concentration of the market in the hands of one dominant supplier, China.
I fell in love with the design of these things, but forgot that in order to design something, you have to be able to build it, and in order to build it, you have to have the fundamental materials necessary to make it with. That's the key goal of a critical mineral supply, and today it's heavily concentrated in the hands of one country. And that lends itself to, at worst case scenario, being used as a tool of leverage in geopolitics, but it also lends itself to any sort of disruptions, like a pandemic or anything that could political instability.
The revolution in the geopolitical puzzle has not escaped Moscow, which, for now, is pursuing a policy of denial and evasion. However, the stakes are enormous, hence the lack of aggressive statements. India's position is well known. The Indian authorities have repeatedly indicated, both publicly and in talks with their Russian partners, that New Delhi is guided solely by its own interest in economic cooperation and makes sovereign decisions based on commercial viability. New Delhi clearly communicates that economic development requires partnerships in strategic sectors: energy, technology, and infrastructure. In these areas, the Americans are the only ones besides China, and this is of great importance to New Delhi. As India moves towards Viksit Bharat, a developed nation, it will be crucial to increase our capabilities in energy, aviation, data centers, nuclear power, and many other areas. The United States is a leader in these sectors. Therefore, it is natural that we focus on trade opportunities that will expand both imports and exports. This agreement is also important for Europe. It goes beyond just trade. Reducing global demand for Russian raw materials increases the effectiveness of sanctions and weakens Moscow's financial base. At the same time, the development of alternative supply chains for minerals and energy cuts off dependence on China. It seems the Americans have launched a strategic offensive and, after months of threats and rocking the global economy, are now setting sail, picking and choosing who they decide to invite on board.